Could you imagine people used to kill someone as a prayer? Do you know how worldwide it was? How civilizations grew on human sacrifice? Have you ever wondered how the practice of human sacrifice, a chilling aspect of our past, shaped the course of history and the beliefs of ancient civilizations? Which, of course, is not caused by demons or angels, only us, human. Back in the days, people believed that their god or gods want them to sacrifice themselves in order to have mercy on the rest, or maybe even for prosperity and welfare. Human sacrifice has been practiced in a wide variety of cultures. All over the history, you can see how people were killed as an offering. One of the most terrifying observations of this practice has been seen in Indus Valley civilization, which flourished in today's Pakistan and India between 3300 and 1300 BC. In this culture, human sacrifice was believed to fertile the soil and ensure the abundance of crops. Imagine kill someone to harvest more corns and tomatoes. Aztec culture was also centered on human sacrifice. It was deeply interwoven with their religious beliefs and worldview. The Aztecs believed that the gods, including the sun god, demanded human blood to sustain the world and maintain cosmic balance. It is estimated that Aztecs sacrificed over tens of thousands of people each year. This is one of the darkest eras in history. They believed that if the sun doesn't receive enough human blood, it will stop shining and darkness shall come. They also had two more gods, God of Spring and the God of Darkness and Sorcery. These deities were also believed to require human blood to nourish their power and influence. Aztecs were mostly farmers, as like many of the old societies, they believed that sacrificing human was essential to ensure bountiful crops. It wasn't always about beliefs. Sometimes it was performed during major festivals and ceremonies, such as coronations and dedications. Aztecs sacrificed their captives from enemy tribes to humiliate them and weaken their military forces. There were several types of human sacrifices practiced by Aztecs. Each of these had a unique purpose and ritual. Here are three types. The heart sacrifice. This was the most common form, in which the victim's heart was cut out and offered to the gods. It was essential that the heart must have been beating in the process. The flowery death. In this form, they threw the victim from the top of a pyramid or temple. It was believed to honor the goddess of flowers. The captive sacrifice. This was the most brutal way. Aztecs slaughtered their captives and butchered them in front of large crowds to terrify the enemy. Human sacrifice had a significant impact on Aztec society, including their beliefs and political manners. It also contributed to expansion of the Aztec Empire, as they frequently conquered neighboring territories to gain access to more sacrificial victims. Aztecs were not the only civilization who practiced human sacrifice. Let me introduce you to Mayans, who also cherished human blood. The ancient Mayan civilization, which flourished in Mesoamerica, left behind a complex and gory legacy. Among the many aspects of Mayan culture, the practice of human sacrifice has captured our attention the most. The frequency and extent of this practice is yet in doubt. However, we know for sure that it was a deeply embedded practice that permeated various aspects of their society. The Maya believed in several gods and deities, each with their own dominion over the natural world and human existence. Human sacrifice was believed to be a necessary offering to maintain this equilibrium. Blood held a sacred significance in Mayan culture. It was seen as a powerful life force, which could appease the gods, ensure prosperity, and ward off misfortune. Mayans also used it as a powerful tool for political and social control. The Maya elite, including rulers, priests, and nobles, often monopolized this practice, using it to strengthen their authority. The selection of sacrificial victims was often based on social status and perceived worth. captives taken from enemy villages or individuals of high social standing were considered more valuable offerings. Mayans had specific rituals for human sacrifice. Victims were often adorned with costumes and jewelry, symbolizing their symbolic transformation as they were offered to the gods. The sacrificial site was often a sacred temple or a specially designated location, usually located on the top of a pyramid or at the center of a ceremonial plaza. Execution methods also had different types. Most common forms we know of were heart extraction, decapitation, and immolation. Heart was considered the seat of life and power. Therefore, it was often the primary target of the sacrifice. After the Spanish conquest in the 16th century, the practice of human sacrifice gradually declined among the Mayans. Many factors took part in this decline, including the influence of neighboring cultures with less emphasis on human blood and internal social and political changes. However, the legacy of human sacrifice in Mayan culture continues to challenge the historical lesson, reminding us that religious beliefs and human behavior have a strong connection. There was another Mesoamerican civilization who practiced human sacrifice and left a gory and dreadful line in history. The Olmecs were a pre-Columbian civilization which flourished in present-day Mexico, leaving behind a legacy of enigmatic monuments, complicated carvings, and a complex of belief systems. Human sacrifice was the center of their beliefs and society. When the exact nature and extent of it is still in question, we know for a fact that it held a significant role in the religious and political system. Olmec made several sculptures depicting scenes of the sacrificial rituals. These sculptures were mostly found in Olmec ceremonial centers and ball courts. The sculptures were usually a scene of heart extraction, decapitation, or bodies being held down on the ground to bleed out. The gruesome nature of these depictions suggests that human sacrifice was not a casual or infrequent event, but rather a deeply embedded practice within the Olmec culture. Just like Mayans and Aztecs, Olmecs also were motivated by their religious beliefs to practice human sacrifice, to ensure the favor of gods and prosperity for their lands. In addition to religion, political reasons were also involved, again like other Mesoamerican civilizations. They bolstered the power and prestige of Olmec rulers, demonstrating their control over life and death. Olmecs usually chose young men as their victims, although individuals of all ages and genders were involved in these rituals. Their sacrifice methods were very similar to Mayans, including heart extraction while the victim was still alive, decapitation, and bloodletting through cutting a vital artery. Olmecs believed that human blood maintains a harmonious relationship with the divine realm. The act of sacrifice involving the shedding of blood was considered to regenerate social power and ensuring the well-being of the community. And over time, this practice lost its color in Olmec culture, as they were replaced with less gory rituals and beliefs. So far, we only talked about Mesoamerican civilizations practicing human sacrifice. Let me take you a bit further, to Northern Europe. Norse people, the Vikings, stand out for the prominence of human sacrifice in their mythology and traditions. Vikings also considered this ritual as a sacred act to appease the gods, Odin in particular, the chief god. Vikings were warriors and farmers, therefore their lives were based on battling for trophies and harvesting crops, so their sacrifices were meant to ensure victory and prosperity. They had specific rituals, often associated with important events such as funerals, victories in battle, or the dedication of new buildings. Victims were usually slaves or war captives, who were deemed to be expendable and dedicated to the gods in exchange for their blessings. Vikings' methods of human sacrifice varied among Norse cultures. Some sources suggest that victims were sometimes strangled or beheaded. Another form was burning alive in special sacrificial pyres. Archaeologists discover multiple bodies in a single grave, often accompanied by weapons and other offerings. suggesting these poor people may have been sacrificed. Additionally, sagas and other written records from the Viking Age contain references to human sacrifice. These accounts, often exaggerated or embellished, provide a glimpse into the beliefs and practices of the Norse community. As Christianity began to gain influence in the region, the practice of human sacrifice gradually declined. The Christianization of Scandinavia brought new beliefs and ethical values with it, which condemned human sacrifices as a barbaric and unacceptable practice. By the 11th century, human sacrifices had largely disappeared from Viking society, replaced by Christian rituals. Though the legacy of human sacrifice in Norse mythology and culture remains a fascinating and debating topic in Viking studies. Mesopotamians, located where we know as Iraq, did the same practice over 1,000 years. They believed that human sacrifice was associated with fertility and to ensure bountiful harvest. Egyptians also had gory rituals, but unlike others, it was more about royalty and a strengthening of kingdom for them. They sacrificed a human to ensure the safe passage of the pharaoh to the afterlife. The Phoenicians, based in today's eastern Mediterranean coast, practiced human sacrifice from the Bronze Age to the Roman conquest. They sacrificed for their god Moloch for the same reason as Maya or Aztec. Let's talk about the Eastern culture now. China's history has also evidence of human sacrifice from the Shang to the Zhou dynasty. For Chinese, it was done for ensuring victory in warfare and, like others, to please the gods and ask for their protection. You probably heard of the Incas. They worshipped a god called Inti. As you can guess, they sacrifice for Inti so that he ensures prosperity and fertility. If you wonder what happened to the bodies of victims after sacrificial rituals, let me tell you, it wasn't anything nice. The bodies of the victims were often dismembered, and the remains were used in various ways, such as being eaten, cremation, and spreading ashes over sacred places or displayed in public. Now you're thinking, thank God it's all in the past. Let me stop you there, because it's not over yet. While human sacrifice has declined in recent centuries due to advancement in civilizations and morality, it still exists in isolated cases around the globe. In some remote regions such as Africa, South Asia, and Latin America, there are still reports of human sacrifices being carried out. These sacrifices are often motivated by a belief or cultural rituals. Some do this to gain good fortune or ensure success in warfare or hunt. One of the most terrifying cases of modern human sacrifice is the practice of child sacrifice among the Ahori tribe in India. The Ahori are a small group of Hindu ascetics who live in cemeteries and crematoriums. They believe that by consuming the flesh of dead bodies and engaging in other taboo practices, they can achieve a spiritual liberation. They're famous for sacrificing young children, as they believe that their death brings them closer to God. All of this makes you wonder why they still have this brutality. There are some factors involved. For one, poverty and lack of education create a breeding ground for superstition and fear. People may turn to human sacrifice as an act of fear for what they don't understand. They do it as an offering to higher powers to survive natural disasters. In remote regions with limited government presence, it's more difficult to enforce laws against human sacrifices. This allows these practices to continue without interference. In some cultures, human sacrifice may be deeply embedded in religious or cultural traditions. Therefore, the wider society can have its effects on them. Addressing poverty and providing quality education can help to reduce superstition and increase awareness of alternative solutions to problems. Governments must play a proactive role in enforcing laws against human sacrifice and providing support to communities affected by it. Anyway, Whenever humanity didn't understand the world around them or feared natural disasters which they couldn't explain, they turned to superstition. Is there any other tribes or civilizations that practice human sacrifice and I didn't mention? What kind of sacrifices have you seen around you? What do you think about the roots of sacrifice? Let me know in the comment section. Till the next time, see ya.